videos that what Topuria did to Josh Emmett, that nobody had done that to him before. But perhaps his win 50-42 on one of the judges' scorecards points out that nobody has done that to anyone. If you remember a case of somebody getting beat 50-42 on judges' scorecards, please remind me because I don't remember that case.
Instead of the submission, when the man is rocked. Wow.
He's got to be very careful dipping his head though.
Oh! Scorecards for decision. The judges score the contest 50-44, 50-42, and 49-45 for the winner by unanimous decision, Ilia.
The judge who gave 49-45 needs to get either his bank account or his brain checked.
Focus. We're in this fight. Focus.
There's a whole subset of fans who are claiming that a finish is more important, which in a lot of the cases may be the truth, but in some cases a decision win over somebody like a top contender may point out way more than a finish.
No.
Granted, a finish on top of that performance would have been icing on the cake, but we have to agree that there are many finishes that display way less dominance over your opponent than this performance by Ilia. Here we see Ilia making a top tier opponent look like he doesn't even belong in the octagon with him. And this has been the full story of this fight. Ilia's ability to stay in the pocket and exchange bombs without getting hit much might present a serious problem for Alexander Volkanovski.
Body shots from Topuria.
I was listening to Kamaru Usman on PBD podcast, and they were discussing some of the top prospects and future stars in UFC and in MMA in general. And Kamaru mentioned Ilia Topuria's name. While discussing his nationality and his skill set, he mentioned that Ilia is from Spain and that his wrestling is decent. While technically none of it is untrue, what Kamaru doesn't seem to understand is that Ilia is not really from Spain. Originally he's from Georgia, and that his wrestling is world class, even though now he represents both countries proudly.
Ilia El Matador Topuria!
Weakness on film from Ilia Topuria.
We have seen this time and time again in many different sports, in many different combat sports. We can refer to sports like wrestling when you have a guy like Abdul Rashid Sadulaev, who was the head of two divisions for a very long time, and no matter how good you were, you would not be getting the title. At best you could hope for is to be number 2. On paper, featherweight division has a lot of those attributes where there is this guy who is the champion and he may be one of the greatest of all time in his division, if not the greatest. When it's all said and done, Alexander Volkanovski may be the best featherweight of all times. So that means that Ilia has a very tall task at hand. We know that not all divisions are created equal. We know that not all champions at a certain point in history are created equal. Therefore, we know that tasks of the hardness of the task at hand of each challenger is not created equal. It took Volkanovski to move up to a higher weight class and fight one of the scariest champions in UFC in order for us to get excited about his fights, about his challenges at least. This is why Ilia had to be that good for us to get excited again. This is why that division needed somebody like him to challenge for the title.
Max just going off that. Why exactly weren't you impressed with Ilia? What did you see that we...
And given the situation with the current champion, him coming off of a knockout loss, which is usually not the case, because if you lose, usually you're not the champion, but because of the certain circumstances, him moving up and his title not being on the line, he has that type of predicament where he was knocked out and now he's defending his title against this guy. What certainly adds to the story. Now let's talk about some of the reasons on paper why Ilia Topuria is the most exciting prospect, title challenger in a very, very long time. He's pride of two nations. One is Georgia, which is his original country, and the second one is Spain. In both countries he has a very large following and he's very well known, and rightfully so. He has a massive following already and is very marketable. He speaks English, Spanish and Georgian. He's someone Dana White wishes Paddy Pimblett was. It's extremely powerful when somebody carries over the support of an entire nation, let alone two nations. He's one of the most technically well-rounded fighters in UFC. He's not only well-rounded in terms of having everything and all the skills that you need to succeed in MMA, all the facets of MMA, but he has very high-level skills in each of those areas. He has a great style and the confidence, which was not manufactured confidence, like we see in some of the cases with other fighters.
If they offer me to fight with Max Holloway in Spain, let's do it. If not, I'm gonna wait for my title shot. No one can match my level of skill inside the cage.
When he makes big statements, he's genuinely confident about those statements. We do see a lot of talkers lately in MMA, but their confidence and their statements do not come from the right place. That certainly is not the case with Ilia. That doesn't mean that he's unbeatable, but what I can tell you is that he is authentic and his confidence is authentic. He's a very accurate puncher and he has great angles. Topuria does present a serious submission threat, and he has very good front chokes. He goes for the guillotines and anacondas. He transitions usually from the back, but I would say it's quite unlikely for him to be able to finish somebody like Alex, who has shown to have very good defense, including late-stage defenses. Here we see Topuria trying to finish his opponent, Steven Gonzalez, in Brave FC. And he had quite a tight anaconda choke, but he was not able to get the finish. But the thing about Topuria, unlike most other fighters, is when he goes all in on the finish and doesn't get it, he doesn't get discouraged. Here we saw him not be able to get the finish, but he keeps imposing his will. Nothing changed, you got out, but you are still under my control. We saw the same approach against Josh Emmett, who was extremely tough and endured what most fighters would not be able to endure, but Topuria just kept beating him down everywhere they went. And we see here the same approach paying off, this time with a brutal knockout that Topuria has delivered several times.
In the first round, second round, if not, I'm gonna dominate him for 5 rounds, no problem.
I just needed to get in camp. So, and then this fight come up, I'm like, it's meant to be. Let's do it. So I need to train. I need to get into it. Again, it keeps me healthy. So yeah, that needs to happen.
The questions still do remain about the well-being of Alexander Volkanovski and how he will actually be able to perform when he actually shows up to the title fight against somebody like Topuria. Some people like to refer to the comeback by Alex Pereira from the devastating knockout against Israel Adesanya, but I don't think this is the same case. First of all, Alex Pereira was killing himself to make the middleweight limit, and since the knockout he moved up to the light heavyweight division, which is 20 pounds heavier than the previous division, so it gave him immense advantage in terms of the endurance, and we all know that weight cuts affect chin quite a bit, and him moving up a weight class, and this is the biggest gap between the weight classes, as we know, it gave him an immense advantage in terms of recovery. This is not going to be the case with Alex. He actually will be moving down and he has to make the weight cut. He's defending the title against one of the heaviest punchers pound for pound in the UFC. Sometimes, no matter how good you are, it's not enough. We have seen that in many sports time and time again, when you may be a premier talent, highly skilled, highly motivated, everything, but there is this one guy who you may not be able to beat. But I do believe that Ilia Topuria will get the job done. Volkanovski will be the 15th rose.